servants gathered here together in thy name, do most humbly beseech thee to send down thy heavenly wisdom from above to direct and guide us in all our consultations. And grant that, we having thy fear always before our eyes, and laying aside all private interests, prejudices, and partial affections, the result of all our counsels may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the Queen, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
This Honourable Senate now resumes its sittings, and we sit this morning at a time when the nation is reflecting on the life, times, contribution of the 5th Prime Minister of Jamaica, Right Honourable Edward Seaga, who passed away on Tuesday of this week. I am informed that a joint meeting of the House and Senate will be held in tribute for Mr. Seaga. In due course, we will be notified of those arrangements, and we would demur to that sitting with respect to the substantive tributes which inevitably members of the Senate may wish to place on record in relation to Mr. Seaga. What I would do this morning, I'll just ask both leaders to say something briefly. Acting Leader Senator Gale and Senator Scott Motley. Senator Gale, you have my permission to sit in a seat other than your own, just to say brief word in relation to Mr. Seaga's passing, and then I will have a moment's silence. You will remember, you will recognize from what is being said that Mr. Seaga is being hailed as the youngest ever person appointed to the Legislative Council at 29. 29. I suppose that it doesn't really. You were appointed at what, Senator Morris? Well, I was appointed to the Senate at 27, so there. So I'm going to ask, in a somber moment, I'll ask Senator Gale just to say a few words, and then Senator Scott Motley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, it is never easy for a nation when one of its leaders and a former Prime Minister has passed. And it was a sad moment for all of us this week when we got the news of the passing of the Right Honourable Edward Philip George Seaga, a man who has done a great deal for this country, a man who has committed his life in serving this nation, and we would consider him to be one of the builders of modern day Jamaica. And so we are deeply saddened by his passing, and we must commend him for the tremendous work that he has done for this nation. Mr. President, it is even ironic because there's a statement that suggests that lightning doesn't strike in the same place twice. But the day of his birth so happened to be the day of his death. And that's, in my mind, unique. But there are communities that would be in mourning now. His own West Kingston constituency that he developed. The musical fraternity to which he played a tremendous role. The parliament, and also in the latter part of his life, he made tremendous contribution to the Football Federation. Mr. President, today is not the day for tributes, but I am sure this country will honor Mr. Seaga for his tremendous contribution at the appropriate time. And today I want to extend, on behalf of the Senate and this side certainly, condolences to his family in their moment of bereavement. His wife, Carla, his sons, Andrew and Christopher, his daughters, Annabelle and Gabrielle, and the rest of his family. We extend our deepest sympathies and condolences. And may his soul rest in peace, Mr. President.
Mr. President, it is never easy for a nation when they lose a leader. But I want to start by conveying the condolences of the opposition senators to his wife and children. Because we have lost a leader, they have lost a father and a husband. Mr. Seaga is part of the political, social, and economic fabric which is Jamaica. He is woven into the history, and he is the last serving member of the committee that determined and charted the course of Jamaica's independence to be alive. Well, now we have lost him. Mr. President, it is appropriate that this Senate acknowledges him in spite of the fact that we are going to be having a joint sitting, because as has been said, he was appointed to the then Legislative Council, which is now the Senate, in 1959. Although he was not born here in Jamaica, there is no one that can challenge the fact that you could not have found somebody more Jamaican. He impacted our music and impacted our culture. And history will show that he was into institution building. That is well documented, and I'm sure at the appropriate time we will have an opportunity to make mention of that. If you will permit me, I want to say to the people of Tivoli that I know how deeply saddened you are, because the relationship between Mr. Seaga and the people of Tivoli was a truly paternalistic one, and I know that they're mourning intensely the loss of their father. Mr. President, at the appropriate time, we will speak to his achievements and we will pay the due tribute. But I thank you for this opportunity to place on record the appreciation of the opposition senators and to offer their condolences to the nation as a whole, as one of those who have served us long and served us in so many different ways has departed, if it pleases you.
Thank you very much. We'll now observe a moment of silence. we get to the business of the day, I bring to the attention of the Senate the passing of a number of outstanding Jamaicans over the last few days, really. And while it is really not our practice to highlight the passage of our fellow citizens in this way, I am compelled really to bring to the attention of the House the recent passing of political commentator and journalist Martin Henry, whose sudden departure was a shock to the nation. Monsignor Stanley Shearer, a long-standing member of the Roman Catholic Church and brother of the late Prime Minister, a man who was highly regarded for his religious contemplation and intellectual capacity, and also, equally so, Reverend C. Evans Bailey, a man who, for those of us who can remember the 60s and 70s, was really a fixture in our experience as once again someone who provided intellectual and religious direction for the country. And it was brought to my attention by Senator Brown, the passage of Errol Harvey, who was a GIS photographer who is someone who all of us would have come in contact with. So I ask that, Madam Clerk, the relevant families be written, indicating that the Senate had observed the passing of their loved one. And I invite two members of the Senate, Senator Morgan and Senator Brown, to just offer brief remarks in relation to the passage of these honorable Jamaicans.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, thanks again, Mr. President. It's, for me personally, as a journalist, the passing of Martin Henry bears some significance, as throughout my time as a producer, especially at RGR Communications Group, I would have had to interact with him on a regular basis. And I think I can speak on behalf of the journalism fraternity. As we remember him, he was not just a commentator, but he was a noted lecturer, columnist, and interestingly, he died on the same day as our former Prime Minister, the Most Honourable Edward Seaga, after giving an interview at Television Jamaica on the life and contribution of Mr. Seaga. Many Jamaicans would have appreciated his considered interventions on national matters of governance and politics. And I think the Senate should not only appreciate his contribution in terms of public discourse, but also think about his contribution in terms of education, where he started teaching at Charlie Smith in 1980, and eventually rising to significant positions at the University of Technology, especially in the School of Graduate Studies, Research and Entrepreneurship. He served that university for 21 years. I think also we should remember him for his honesty, his integrity, his forthrightness, his dedication to the improvement of Jamaica. And we must, I believe, extend condolences to his colleagues, friends, and family, especially his students and colleagues at the University of Technology, and members of the media fraternity, especially Television Jamaica, who I know are hurting as based on the circumstances of his passing. Mr. President, before I sit, I think it's also appropriate, as you have outlined, that we also remember Monsignor Stanley Shearer. Interestingly, Monsignor Shearer gave the, I'm trying to find the right word, it was the homilist at the Mass celebrating the 100th anniversary of the death of Sir Alexander Bustamante, as well as preached at the 7th anniversary of his death, both occurring at the Cathedral of the Holy Trinity. He made significant contributions to the Catholic Church, and we all know the role of the Catholic Church in assisting especially the poor and destitute within our society, and that's something that he was very committed to. He has served in numerous parishes: Holy Rosary, Cathedral of the Holy Trinity, St. Thomas Aquinas, Our Lady of Assumption, Morant Bay, St. Joseph Spanish Town, Stella Maris, and Holy Cross. And I think those who are able may want to attend this Mass, which will take place on June 7th at the Cathedral of the Most Holy Trinity on North Street at 10 a.m. Some of you who are older than I am would remember Reverend C. Evans Bailey, who was ailing for a very long time, another member of the media fraternity as well. He was chairman of the RGR group for 14 years until March 31, 1994, where he was succeeded by Lester Spalding, who is of blessed memory as well. Interestingly, he would have been a part of the RGR group when it was going through a significant period of transition, where there was a consideration about expansion and other corporate decisions which have made the group what it is now today. And I think we should all appreciate the work that he did in developing the media today. As you know, Jamaica continues to maintain a strong position in terms of press freedom, and he would have contributed in the development of that environment. But one of the more, for me as a journalist, touching deaths that have taken place is that of Errol Harvey. As a photographer myself, I would have skipped through thousands of his shots of this parliament, of politics, of the national history. And throughout his work, he basically chronicled the evolution of Jamaica. He joined the Ministry of Development in 1957 as a technician in the film department and served there until 1961. Then he joined JIS in 1965, just after independence, where he was appointed chief photographer in 1990, serving in that capacity until 1994. There's also an award by the PAJ called the Errol Harvey Award for Human Interest Photography. Mr. President, I think it would be appropriate, if it pleases you, for the Senate to recognize the important contribution of all these Jamaicans. As I said the other day to a colleague, some of our greatest minds are transitioning, and it is the role of us to preserve their memory, but also for the younger generation to recognize that the mantle is being passed so that we can build on their achievements to ensure that Jamaica prospers and becomes great and makes them proud. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Morgan. Senator Brown.
President, there's no need to repeat some of the details that Senator Morgan has made. But suffice it to say that the angels of death was savage this week on our nation. 5 prominent Jamaicans, many of whom are in some way or another connected, passed on this week. We paid tribute earlier to the former Prime Minister. Now we have learned that the brother of another former Prime Minister, Stanley Shearer, Monsignor Stanley Shearer pastor, I think one thing I recall from school days is that he was fluent in many languages, and that was a factor that led a lot of people to look up to this black boy from downtown who went to Rome and made it great. So, along with Stanley Shearer, Reverend C. Evans Bailey passed on, two senior members of the church, one Methodist, one Roman Catholic, but they served the country well. And the last speech I heard of Reverend Evans Bailey was his defense of the poor in Jamaica and in Haiti. And he could be considered a liberation theologist. Along the line of Ashley Smith and others like those who stood up for what is right. And I have a slight inkling that he might have worked with Operation Friendship in West Kingston, dealing with poor people. And of course, veteran photojournalists. Some people we don't see oftentimes, we don't hear them because they're behind the lens, clicking away and flashing to catch what used to be called the Kodak moment, but they still operate even in this digital era. But Errol Harvey is a family friend of mine, came from just below JC, just above St. Margaret's Church, and he was a member of the St. Margaret's. As we miss Monsignor Shearer and C. Evans Bailey, and we extend our heartfelt sympathy and condolences to their families and their friends. Martin Henry, strange case. And Sunday I was listening to That's a Wrap with Earl Maxwell. He was there. And somehow, I don't know if Earl had a premonition, somehow Earl took him to his 30 years of writing a column for the Gleaner, and you never expected that to be the end of his writing. Live television on Tuesday night. People saw him doing what he does best beyond his work at CAS, commentating on national and public events, the passing of Mr. Seaga. And I was busy doing some work on a case I have. And my children start asking, is it true? What is true? And they show me cell phone, social media reporting that the man they had just seen on TV is dead. It's sad. And we express our condolences to his family, to his friends, the people at UTEC. Mr. President, I want to place on record my support for an article written by Colin Steer in the Gleaner today, summing up Martin Henry. I just want to add to that. I agree with Colin. He was a center-right in the scheme of commentators, but he was well-researched. He was not one of those columnists who were cavalier with the truth. He paid high regards to the truth. But he was consistent. I believe the same thing he wrote 30 years ago is the same things he's writing about today. And we all wonder if things did change along the way. He spoke his mind. And he was one with whom we may disagree, and some may disagree. But he would defend your right to disagree with him, as he insisted on his own right to say things as he wished. In later years, he became an anti-corruption crusader, and he was part of the National Integrity Action. He wrote many columns. I just Googled Martin Henry and corruption. Some interesting columns came through. Colin Steer said he was kind of boring, but if you look beyond the bore, you found a lot. He had a wry sense of humor, and I just want to share for the record of the Parliament before I sit a column he wrote on the 25th I think it is the 29th of July last year. Interestingly, it was entitled The Gimmickry of Ministers Back to School. Just to share his wry wit with us. He said, and I close on this. So, are the boys and girls of the cabinet going to wear uniforms? In which case, I would recommend a national primary school uniform, navy blue tunics and white blouses for the girls, with white socks and khaki for the boys, with a couple of twists. The girls should be required to wear Westwood straw hats and ribbons in the colors of the flag. And the boys should be required to wear short pants and knee-high socks cuffed at the top, as I had to do in my first 3 years in high school. And they will need a cabinet school tie, which should have the Petrojam logo on it. There's a lot lurking behind this prime ministerial proposition to train cabinet ministers to behave themselves and to govern properly. First of all, and glaringly so, is the tacit inference that they're not doing so now. And so we have a corruption-prone and incompetent government. I just raise that because here's the taking a national issue, putting some dry wit to it, but connecting with the people. And the irony, Senator Mohammed, the school and the training took place. You might not have been here, but such is life. You're here, and we welcome you, and others are not here because the training seems not to have taken place. We'll miss Martin Henry. We'll miss his wry humor. We'll miss his dedication to facts and his arguments. We'll miss Monsignor Shearer and what he represents, the future and the potential of poor people. We'll miss C. Evans Bailey. We will miss Errol Harvey. May the family be consoled by the fact that they serve this nation, each and every one of them, with distinction. Mr. President, I wish that at least in two cases, in the case of Errol Harvey, that JIS would organize an exhibition of some of his iconic photographs, mainly at official events of the state. And in terms of Martin Henry, I urge the Gleaner to publish 30 years of columns once a week. That's about 1,500 columns, to publish a collection of those columns. In this way, we keep their memory alive because they serve well. An appreciative Senate, like an appreciative nation, wish them fond farewell. May it please you.
Thank you, Senator Brown. As is our custom, Madam Clerk, I'm going to ask you just to write to the families, and you could include the relevant section of the Hansard for their record. Statements by ministers. Announcements.
How could they not make a statement today? And why I'm in charge?
The seat rightfully his own.
Laid on the table of the Senate today are the following: Ministry Paper number 23 of 2019 and revised National Quality Policy and Implementation Plan as a white paper. Ministry Paper number 24 of 2019 and Parish Courts of Jamaica, the Chief Justice's Third Quarter Statistics Report 2018 Criminal Matters. Annual Report of the Overseas Examinations Commissions, OEC, for the year 2017-2018. Annual Report of the Council of Community Colleges of Jamaica for 2013-2014. Annual Report of the Child Development Agency for the year 2015-2016. Annual Report of the University Council of Jamaica for the year 2017-2018. The promulgation of special benefits or the National Housing Trust Housing Benefits, Mary's Field Housing Development Order 2019. The promulgation of special benefits order, National Heritage Trust, housing benefit, Longville Park Housing Development, Phase 2A, Order 2019. Parish Courts of Jamaica, the Chief Justice's Annual Statistics Report for 2018. The INDECOM Second Quarterly Report, April to June 2018. Annual Report of the Microinvestment Development Agency Limited for the year 2017-2018, and the Annual Reports of the National Solid Waste Management Authority for the years 2015, 2016, 2016, 2017, and 2017, 2018.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. While on announcements, I should have said it earlier, but Mr. Leighton White, who is here from the UDC, was out of the chamber. The UDC, which is the agency responsible for the construction of the new Parliament building, proposed new Parliament building at Hero Circle, has mounted an exhibition in the lobby of the Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Chairman of the UDC. So I'm going to ask, thank you, the present Chairman of UDC. So the object is there for you to look at. I must say that I attended all the functions put on by the UDC in relation to the Parliament, including the last one where the winning architectural team was here. And I must say that my only conclusion is that the senators all watched it on television, because the turnout was paltry. So thank you very much, Mr. White, for joining us, and he's going to be here to answer questions that you may have at the end of the sitting. Bills brought from the Honourable House of Representatives. Just give us a minute, please. This Honourable Senate now stands in recess for 5 minutes.
There's a long-distance relay that's still on. Many have taken it this far, each leg as important as the next, each challenge faced with determination. Now it's your turn to take the baton. People living with HIV and AIDS and those who are vulnerable need your commitment. It stands in the way of a better quality of life for all of us and our self-respect as a region. It stands in the way of victory in the fight to stop the spread of HIV. Reject stigma and discrimination. Get us to zero.
We can be, we must be, the generation to eradicate extreme poverty, the generation most determined to fight injustice and inequality, the generation that saves the planet from climate change. To achieve this, we must implement Agenda 2030, a 15-year development plan for everyone, everywhere, with no one left behind. We will live in a world where no one, anywhere, lives in extreme poverty.
We will live in a world where no one goes hungry, where no one wakes up in the morning asking if there will be food today.
We will live in a world where no child shall die from diseases we can cure, and proper health care is a lifelong right for us all.
We will live in a world where everyone goes to school, and education will give us the knowledge and skills for a fulfilling life.
We will live in a world where all women and all girls have equal opportunities to thrive, to be powerful and safe.
We can't succeed if half the world is held back.
We all live in a world where people can get clean water, proper toilet, at home, at school, and at work.
We will live in a world where there will be sustainable energy for everyone. Heat, light, and power for the planet without destroying the planet.
We live in a world where economies prosper and new wealth leads to decent jobs for everyone.
And we will live in a world where all our industries, our infrastructure, and our best innovations are not just used to make money, but to make all our lives better.
We will live in a world where prejudices and extremes of inequality are defeated, inside our countries and between different countries.
We will live in a world where people live in the cities and communities that are safe, and support everyone who lives in them.
We will live in a world where we replace what we consume, a planet where we put back what we take out of the earth.
We will live in a world that is decisively rolling back the threat of climate change.
We will live in a world that will restore and protect the life in our oceans and seas.
We will live in a world where we restore and protect life on land, the animals, the forests, the earth itself.
We will live in a world with peace between and inside countries, where all governments are open and answer to us for what they do at home and abroad, and justice rules with everyone equal before the law.
And we must live in a world where all countries, including Jamaica,
and we, their people, work together in partnerships
of all kinds to make these global goals a reality
for everyone, everywhere, every Jamaican.
This is the plan. Let's get to work. Let's make it happen. To achieve the Jamaica we want. Vision 2030, Jamaica, advancing the SDGs, leaving no one behind.